Bam, we are live. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? Those are joining in on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I got on with me today, if you're not familiar, the Big Blue Banter podcast, another podcast that goes through the All 22. I love talking with people who watch the film and know what they're talking about, and Nick and Dan Snyder do that really well. Nick, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. Got some Thursday night football on over there, so if I keep poking over there a little bit on the live feed, don't hate me for it, but everything's going pretty well up here in North Jersey. How about yourself? You down in Florida still?
Yep. Just barely missed that tropical storm because it flooded the top left of the panhandle of Florida, but for us it was like, oh, okay, it's got like a little bit of extra rain.
You guys didn't get hit that bad. That's good.
Yeah,
we're all dealing with the coronavirus though. That's something that's very unfortunate. Right now.
I know. I was just talking with Danny, and he was saying that like they're getting ready to shut down back up there in New York.
Yeah, there are talks about it. I know Chicago put some kind of mandatory shutdown for Monday, I believe. So I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen here, but I know it's heating up again.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's not give coronavirus takes. Every time I talk about coronavirus, I sound dumb because I'm shooting from the hip.
Neither of us are scientists or doctors or anything like that. We are not qualified.
I know. I thought about becoming a doctor when people say that you're not a doctor. Just to be like, actually, yes, I am.
Yes, you should become a doctor in like sports administration or something like that. You know, you could still call yourself a doctor. You're not a doctor of medicine, but you're a doctor of something else.
Yeah, it would just be nice because like every time you like have an opinion on an injury in football, people are like, well, you're not a doctor. It'd be nice to just throw it back in their face. But like, actually, I am. That's something I actually do, Nick, is the Giants had a defensive lineman named Bobby Skinner. So every once in a while you'll get like funny, like you talk about that. You couldn't be out there and play the game, and I'll just send them the picture of that guy's profile. Like, actually, I did play for the Giants back in the day. I'm like, oh,
back in the day, back in the retro.
I didn't know that. All right, so we'll get some. Hopefully, YouTube's not screwing up again because it kind of seems like it is. But anyways, if it's not screwing up, we're gonna answer some questions. I want to start with one first because you were the one who introduced me to him when we were doing a pre-draft episode last year. Matt Peart. He's come in. He's looked solid. What is your opinion of just his play? And then we could kind of go into if he should start. Like, what have been your thoughts of him so far?
So I was first exposed to Matt Peart down at the Senior Bowl. I go down to the Senior Bowl every year, and the Senior Bowl director, Jim Nagy, brought up Matt Peart, and he said, this guy could be the next DeBrickashaw Ferguson. And I got the chance to stand next to this guy, and this guy was absolutely gigantic. He was a very humble individual. He was being interviewed, and he was answering all the questions very courteously. So that's just to speak to his character. He seems like a really, really good kid with a really good head on his shoulders. Now his play, man, I mean, he's stepping in, you know, everyone was going to say, yeah, he's going to take a year, he's going to take 2 years to develop, and he's doing really well right now in terms of his footwork, pass protection, and in the run, something that a lot of people thought had a lot of question marks about. I mean, his feet in both phases, the way he frames his blocks, they've been really good. I would say his punch isn't necessarily strong in pass protection. He just kind of makes contact, but his length allows him to just do that, and just with his feet, his mirroring ability, he can glide with pass rushers up the arc, and he's been doing really well handling counter moves with active hands. And once he works on that hand technique, gets it a little bit more refined and better, it could even kind of maximize his skill set, which is something that he'll develop with more experience. But as of right now, he's just been playing, he's exceeding my expectations. I kind of like the way the Giants are using him at the moment. I know a lot of Giants fans don't, but you're not throwing him to the fire. You're not giving defensive coordinators the opportunity to develop a bunch of exotic stunts with an offensive line that consists of 2 rookies, a rookie if Will Hernandez wasn't starting for the past 2 weeks, and then a center who is relatively new to starting the position. But Peart exceeded all my expectations so far, and I think that he's somebody that the Giants can really look forward to being a linchpin on this offensive line. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same things with you. With like, he doesn't really punch, and he opens up his hips a little early too. So I was like, I wasn't like, you know, he played good against Washington, but I was like, you know what? Nobody had any film on him. They didn't expect him. I was like, don't jump into it. Cause like you look at Andrew Thomas' first game against Pittsburgh and he played well. So I was like, relax on the Matt Peart stuff. But like you said, even with that, like not really punching and catching for the most part and opening up his hips, he's just so athletic and just naturally strong that he gets away with it. And it's almost like good because he's not letting you do anything inside because he opens his hips. And he's able to just every time like push that defensive end around. It's been surprising that like game after game, he's done well. The Philly game, he did give up him and Thomas both gave up a sack at the same time, but it also was like he didn't get like destroyed on that play. It was just he kind of opened up his hips too early, and they're 7-8 yards. The defensive end got around at like 8 yards.
Yeah, those really flexible defensive ends are going to be able to beat him on that. But a lot of the ones who aren't as flexible, when he does open his hips early, he has that length to kind of just glide him up the arc and then use his length to kind of punch him up the arc. And then Daniel Jones can just step up right into the nice pocket if Daniel Jones doesn't flee the pocket too early, which is something that he does sometimes. But he can step right up into a nice pocket, and that length can kind of bail him out when he does make that mistake or when he does get beat by speed. So those are also things that you have to love about him. You love long arms, especially if it's with an athletic prototype, and that's what Matt Peart is.
Yeah, it's been encouraging. So are you on the let's start Matt Peart now?
No, I am on the let's keep doing what we're doing right now because it's working as of right now. The offensive line is blocking really well against some solid defensive fronts. So I kind of like mixing in Cam Fleming in there, having him have some snaps. Because again, I think if you start him, Andrew Thomas, you have Nick Gates, a new center. That's a very, very young offensive line. And I can just imagine that these defensive coordinators are going to be able to scheme pressure and really manipulate the protections of this offensive line. That's something that gives me a little bit of pause as of right now. I kind of like splitting it up right now. That's just me. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily on that, but since it is working, I don't necessarily hate it. I don't see why we would have to. And I think eventually it's going to lead to that. And that's something that I am looking forward to. But this is a very, very young offensive line, a very young quarterback in his second system, just trying to master this system. Hasn't necessarily seemed like he's comfortable yet. And if you just keep adding youth to that, it could lead to some game-changing mistakes.
Yeah, I was right there with you, but this last game for me was like, go ahead and start him. But I do agree that and honestly more so in the run game, where there's a couple times where Cam Fleming got beat inside the run game and messed up some run plays. So yeah, but it's exciting, and it feels like, well, I'll transition into that because Thomas has looked a lot better the past couple of games. I mean, he really, against JPP, he seemed like he spent those 11 days to work on protecting the inside with that right foot, whether it's just a simple one step to eliminate that. What have you seen like that's been encouraging these last couple of games, and do you think it's something that's going to continue, or like I still do see some stuff where it's like he can go back to having a 2-sack game?
Yeah, he could. I mean, he almost gave up one in Washington, got beaten inside one time, but on the whole, holistically, you look at what he did, and it was definitely an improvement. I feel like his kick slide seems more confident. Seems like he has more power step to it, where he's not lifting his leg as high, and it's kind of allowing him to be a bit more balanced. And as for his hand technique, I think it's still a work in progress. It's something that he can get a little bit better at. I didn't think he was lunging as much the last 2 weeks, which is something that he's had problems with, but it's still something that I feel like can be a little bit more consistent. I think consistency is the key and confidence is the key. And it seems like he's playing much more confidently right now, which is something that you have to applaud for Mark Colombo. You have to applaud the entire offensive line. The unit itself is actually stabilizing for the first time in what seems like our lifetime, to be honest, because this offensive line has been so bad for so long. But I think it's definitely, he has a lot that he can work on, but he's worked on it through the last 2 weeks, and it's definitely encouraging.
Yeah, the Tampa game was, there was like a couple times where he got beat, but it wasn't a sack or anything.
Yeah,
that game was really encouraging. This past game against Chase Young was not less encouraging, but I wasn't as impressed as the Tampa game. It's because, I mean, that's who we saw at college, and it's like Chase Young, as talented as he is, he's still kind of raw, and he's kind of like he pre-plans his moves. So that Tampa game was impressive, and like you said, if he can have a third good game in a row and against a team that embarrassed him on Thursday Night Football and the Eagles, that would do wonders for his confidence. So that's why I think this game is so huge for him.
And he's got some guys, man. Brandon Graham is really good. We have a question that popped up.
Yeah, you can finish. We got time.
I was just gonna say Brandon Graham is a really good edge rusher. Derek Barnett's a really speed kind of rusher who's very flexible. So those are guys who are going to challenge him. Hopefully he can rise to it once again.
Yeah. David Kowalenko, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. David says, thanks for the content, Bobby. You're welcome. If we pick top 5, thoughts on the OT from Oregon and Penn Sewell and really solidify our O-line. Nick, I'll kick that to you.
Yeah, so I haven't done an extensive film on any of these guys yet, and a lot of these guys have opted out. So once this season's over, I'm going to really dive into the film. I've heard and I've seen just Oregon games from last season. Sowell was incredibly effective and one of the best tackle prospects in the draft if he were to come out this year, and that was with the big four that came out this season. But the way I look at it, man, is we need edge. We need another cornerback. We could use another linebacker. You got guys like Micah Parsons. And I'm not saying that's the way that we're going to go. We're so far out from the draft right now, and so many things can change from now until the draft, let alone now until the offseason. But if you're really confident in Andrew Thomas and Matt Peart at the end of the season, I don't know if they would go and draft an offensive tackle, because what are you thinking? That we're just going to kick one of those guys inside? It sounds good in theory, but it's usually not that simple. I mean, we saw Eric Flowers have success with that, but Eric Flowers was an absolute disaster at tackle. And Andrew Thomas, if he continues to build on this, doesn't seem like he's going to be an absolute disaster, even though at some points this season it was discouraging to see him play. Yeah,
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you where I haven't really done any draft research besides a few guys. I get a lot of draft questions in these. That's what happens when you're 2-7. Here's a good one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Shane Baldwin, who I think listens to both our shows. Thank you, Shane. Was Austin Mack's game a one-game wonder, or could he replicate that performance this week? I'll stay away from the replicate this performance this week, but like, what are your thoughts on Mack, and if he was like just kind of like a one game where he was schemed open?
I mean, he was definitely schemed open on the 4-vert play that the Giants ran, the 50-yard pass that Daniel Jones, and that was a really great play by Daniel Jones. He looks off the backside safety, and then he looks at the Evan Ingram seam, which kind of drags that deep half safety over towards the seam route and kind of removes him from Austin Mack, leaving Austin Mack wide open on that out and up on a 4 vertical type of concept. But then there was that contested catch on 3rd down where it looked like he got hit early and he was still able to secure the ball into his body, get down, and then there was the almost touchdown. He had a really good game, but I do think it's somewhat scheme dependent. You look at the Giants offense, you want to say Philadelphia is going to be cognizant of Sterling Shepard, somebody who has had success against them in the past. Austin Mack may have those opportunities again. Now he just needs to seize those opportunities if Daniel Jones decides to throw it deep. Last time we played them, they blitzed a lot. They were playing some man coverage, and Daniel Jones had some success hitting Golden Tate deep. We're not sure if Golden Tate's going to play in this game because he came down with a little injury in practice, which could lead to more Austin Mack. So I do think he can build on this performance, and there should be some place for him that he just has to take advantage of.
Do you think Shep needs to stay in the slot no matter what we do with the other guys?
I think you can mix it up a little bit, to be honest, but I do like him best in the slot because he's just incredibly agile. He's the best route runner on the team by far. I don't even think it's a question, to be honest. I think he's better in the slot than even Golden Tate, but I just don't think Golden Tate really has all that much left, and he definitely seems disgruntled, which is something you don't want on a young offense as well. But you can put him out on the boundary if you want to use, say, Evan Ingram as a big slot, if you want to go in 11 personnel, granted saying Evan Ingram's a wide receiver in those kind of personnel packages, and you put Caden Smith or Levine Toilolo or whatever the hell you want to do on the offensive line. But you can use them both. But I do want to see him in the slot because, again, give him a two-way go. He's just that much more dangerous because he's so quick and effective running those routes.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you on Mack, where I'm not buying it. I mean, like I said, it was scheme. The slant catch was nice, but it was also, it's like he had 1 catch for 1 yard in the previous 3 games.
Yeah.
Well, first, MG says the beard suits you well, so I agree with him there, Nick.
Hey, MG, yesterday, literally, my beard was like this.
I know. We were on a video chat with you guys a couple of weeks ago, and I was expecting it to be like out to here by
oh yeah, no, my girl trimmed it out. I'm growing the hair out now. I mean, literally, if you took a picture of me normally when I'm not in quarantine, and then now it's like a totally different person, you wouldn't even recognize me.
I like it. I like it. You would, if you actually, now that I'm thinking about it, with your hair that way and a big beard, you would like look exactly like the real Jesus. I like it.
Oh, the real one.
Yeah, not the long blonde hair, like, you know, the one.
Not the one that you see on all those posters everywhere. No, but the real actual man himself. Probably, He probably had the same complexion as me and the same type of hair.
Yeah. All right. So now we're talking about your beard. Dylan Singer asked, "Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Could it be possible to snag Kenny Galladay and Bud Dupree?" I'll change that into, is wide receiver a free agent target for you? And then if it is, who's the guy out of that group? Is it Allen Robinson, Galladay, someone like Juju?
It's Allen Robinson for me. I do believe it's a target, to be honest. I mean, this is another draft that's going to have a lot of receivers, so the Giants are going to really, and I can't wait to go over this on Big Blue Banter, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it a lot on Twitter, Bobby, what the Giants are going to do with their cap space and who's going to be on the team next year, what's going to happen with Nate Solder, whose contract carried over because he opted out. So now now cutting him is going to be, I think, $10 million against the cap, dead cap. And then Golden Tate, who's going to probably be a cap casualty if we're going to be honest. But just looking at some of the free agents, Bud Dupree's probably looking to get a big contract. I'm not sure if Pittsburgh wants him to leave because he fits in so well and he's really just maximizing his opportunities there. But if I had to choose somebody, I think it would be Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson has never played with a good quarterback, like his entire life. He might have maybe in high school, but if you really think about it, he had Blake Bortles when he started his career, right? And he had Mitch Trubisky. Now he has a bad Nick Foles. And in college, he had Christian Hackenberg. It's like this guy can't get a break. And Daniel Jones isn't the best or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but Daniel Jones would probably be one of the best quarterbacks this guy has ever played with. And I think he'd be excellent for Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones loves throwing those 50-50 balls to Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton has done an excellent job coming down with him in his young career, but Allen Robinson is one of the kings of that. It's like him and DeAndre Hopkins are excellent at that. I think he'd fit in so well because you can use him more in the short, the intermediate, the deep. Kenny Golladay, he's more of a deep guy, but I think he's a very underrated receiver as well. So I really like both of those guys, but we're going to have to see how the Giants can retain some of the guys that they have on the roster right now, whether that be Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson, who's going to get the franchise tag. You still have Logan Ryan you have to worry about. So I think come that time at the end of the season, there's going to be so much to talk about.
Yeah, I was big on the Allen Robinson train, and then when Jordan Rona had talked about like the Giants asking about Golladay, like I knew they weren't going to trade for him, but it did cause me to do some research, and then I moved on to Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay passes Allen Robinson. And then I watched Allen Robinson that Sunday against the Saints, and I went back to Allen Robinson. So basically, I just want a receiver, and those two, I would be thrilled if we got either one of those guys.
Basically, Kenny Golladay and Allen Robinson are playing ping pong in your head right now.
Yeah, I know.
Someone's got to win the serve.
It's one of those things, and then it's like, okay, just be happy with either one.
Yeah.
Ty, thank you for the donation. Can Bobby post a video showing his online punch? No, I don't want to get made fun of on my own YouTube channel, Tom.
I kind of want to see you. I kind of want to see you with your punch and your kick slide. To be honest, I got a pretty good kick slide. I never played offensive line. I was tight end, receiver, and outside linebacker. But I would like to see your kick slide.
Well, I was very excited with Thomas because there was one offseason where I was like, I'm just going to master shutting down the inside, and that's what he did against Tampa. Obviously, it's different at high school in Division III than it is against Jason Pierre-Paul. But I was like, that's awesome. Thomas is doing what I spent an offseason doing. Like I said, a lot on a lot different level, but that was pretty cool to see. So yeah, it just felt good coming back to training camp the next year. It's like if you will not go inside on me this year.
Exactly, and that first time that guy tries to go inside, in your mind, for like it feels like the rep is like 10 seconds long, even though it's like a second, and you're just like, oh yeah, I got you, you son of yeah, and you just pin him up against the guard. You freaking it's that must have been an awesome feeling, dude.
Yeah, and then you go to college, and then it's like, all right, we're doing this all over again. You're going against people who are like becoming grown men. Yeah,
exactly.
Darth Licker, which I like the name. That's kind of funny. Would you be okay with Gregory Rousseau in the draft?
The kid from Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I haven't done the extensive film work on him quite yet. I've heard a lot of good stuff about him, but I think it would be disingenuous for me to give any kind of honest analysis on him just because I haven't done the film work yet.
That's the issue with what me and you do, Nick, is we do our own homework, and as we get all these questions, and a lot of times it's like, I don't know yet. Where it's like,
but like check back with me in March, in February, because I really do a lot in January, because I do a lot heading up to the Senior Bowl. And then when I get down to the Senior Bowl, there's I have all the players down there, start reporting from there, and check back with me then, and I'll let you guys know what I think,
sure.
at least.
Let's change that. I'll turn that question into this though.
Okay.
And I'll give my opinion and let give your take. If you keep everything is on this defense, and you add one good pass rusher who you don't need to scheme pressure or do stunts, just one guy who can, someone who's of Tuck's level, OC's level. You don't need a Hall of Famer, just of, that really good pass rusher. I think it takes this defense with Patrick Graham, makes it elite, because as good as Patrick Graham has been, what you do notice at times is like, we don't have anybody that's just consistent, like that you can just trust to get to the quarterback. It's usually, it's through blitzing a safety or a corner. You just don't have anybody who's just going to win that one-on-one battle. As good as like Leonard Williams has been getting sacks, he's not just blowing guards away like no one really is at the defensive tackle spot besides Aaron Donald. But basically what I'm saying is I feel like we're just that one pass rusher away.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely say we're that one pass rusher away, and you got to also think if we get that one pass rusher, that's just going to unlock an extra step if Leonard Williams is still here and Dalvin Tomlinson can create more one-on-ones, and you could still stunt and bring pressure, but you're going to have that blue goose pass rusher who can win one-on-one. I also would argue, I think cornerback too is a big need too, as well, because I think the Giants right now are a little hamstrung with kind of the coverages that they have to run. They run a lot of 3 high, a lot of quarter, half. Sometimes they do like inverted cover 2 type of stuff, but man coverage, they'll do it in short yardage situations, like 3rd and short because high leverage situations. But whenever a team sees you in man coverage, they're going to attack Isaac Yiadom because Isaac Yiadom can't cover in man. They were going to attack Ryan Lewis because Ryan Lewis can't really cover in man. If you can get somebody, not even talking about somebody up to James Bradbury's level, but somebody who is an upgrade over those two, I do think that also helps solidify this defense. And it won't necessarily have to be a bend don't break defense where we're kind of playing top down and allowing these, 4 to 5 to 6 yard gains all the time because the defense just allows teams to throw in front of them all the time.
Yeah, somebody like DeAndre Baker.
Yeah, I heard of that guy. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah. What I like about Graham though is I feel like he does a good job hiding that corner. Like like you said, they're going to target it. They're going to get those wins. But he does a good job hiding it. Whereas I felt like last year with Betcher is like, and this is obviously there's some more veterans on this team with Bradbury, Logan Ryan, Blake Martinez. But I just never bought the thing with Betcher. It's like, oh, his defense is too complex to run. I was like, what? Like, then why are you here? Like, if your defense is too complex to run, then what are you doing here? Whereas Patrick Graham, with no real offseason, did something where it's, not the craziest thing in the world. And his talking point is like, hey, you just install cover 3 and you run it different ways. That's where I've liked Graham is he's been able to hide them as well as he can, now.
Exactly. And it's worked too. And like last week, for instance, you brought up the slot blitzes and the safety blitzes that they do when they bring those 5-man pressure packages. Washington, they got cocky and they lined up a wide receiver tight to the line of scrimmage, like a yard or 2 split off of the tackle. So what did Graham do? He just brought Isaac Yiadom, put Isaac Yiadom in press and then send him on the blitz. What was the end result? It was a sack. So it's like he's just taking advantage of what the offense is showing him in certain looks and being like, okay, if you're going to do that, well, I'm going to do this. And I like the probability of us having success here. And we're going to use coverage on the back end to help cover whoever Isaac Yiadom's responsibility was. And it worked out there.
Right. All right. So this, I'm really interested to hear your opinion on this. I seen Judge has Lemieux and Hernandez learning right guard as well. So Zeitler be sitting some also. So that's more of a statement. I'll ask you, do you think there's the big difference between Hernandez and Lemieux?
So I think Hernandez is probably a better athlete than Lemieux. Although Lemieux looked pretty quick pulling this week, I was actually somewhat impressed watching Lemieux pull. I thought his feet looked faster than I expected on some of those counter kind of plays that they were running. I know that's a popular narrative. I'm not necessarily going to go there quite yet, especially because I think Will Hernandez is a lot better than Lemieux in pass protection. Now, in run, in a phone booth, yes, I think Lemieux has... I don't want to say he's better than Will Hernandez, but I don't think the gap is that big. But in pass protection, Lemieux has Tyrannosaurus Rex arms, which is unfortunate. He has short arms. He usually allows the defender to make contact with him, and he's given ground, and he's lost early in the rep. To his credit, he's able to bounce back, re-anchor his hips sometimes, and do just enough to allow Daniel Jones to get rid of the football, but it's while he's getting backed up into Daniel Jones's lap. Yeah. So I think he hasn't been great in pass protection, but he's a 5th-round rookie. I think he's been great for what he is. You got to consider the context of what he is, a 5th-round rookie. And I think he's been good in that for that, basically. But I'm not going to go there and say that he's better than Will Hernandez as of right now.
I agree 100%. Like you said, for a 5th-round rookie, I was very impressed for the way he played, that early in his career. And I agree with you. The run game, he's not better than Hernandez, but he's kind of close. He's kind of close. And then in the pass game, to me, it's totally different. But the thing is Thomas has had 2 good games while Hernandez is out. So the talking point has become, well, Lemieux unlocks, Thomas is just so much better with Lemieux. So if they have one screwed up stunt on Sunday, they're going to be calling for Hernandez's head. And I think Hernandez is a victim of expectations, where he's not going to be that Pro Bowl, all pro guard that people thought when he was drafted. With that, I thought he was going to be drafted, or was going to be when he was drafted. But to me, Hernandez is an above average guard who he would start on every team in the league.
Yes, I think that's a fair assessment, to be honest. He's average to above average, not anything past that. My expectations of him too. I mean, I watched him at UTSA and I thought he was a road grader. You know, I thought he would be excellent in power gap, and this kind of system would really fit him what Jason Garrett's running. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's still, we haven't seen what we kind of hoped for. Kind of like what you just said. And that's definitely, it's a disappointment, but he's not somebody to just throw away either, because starting offensive line are hard to come by, as Giants fans should know. And he is a starting offensive lineman in this league.
Right. Paul Nunez asked the question, and I'll send this to you. Are you team Gettleman or dump Gettleman?
So I'm a little conflicted right now. I think Gettleman is going to get another year. Now, I think there are a lot of cases to be made to fire Dave Gettleman. I think that you can look at some of the moves that he's made and criticize him and chastise him for those moves. At the same time, I think he's made a lot of solid moves as well. I know my co-host Dan is definitely on team dump Gettleman. I'm not quite on team 100% dump Gettleman. If they dump Gettleman, I understand. If they go with him, I don't want to say I understand it, but I think the COVID situation is going to bail him out and give him another year. I don't necessarily think he deserves it, but I really just hope they have a plan. I'm kind of waiting till the end of the season to see how this all pans out to really formulate my opinion. I think I could say, but I know it's very popular to say dump Gettleman. I don't tend to just go with what is popular,
right?
But he's definitely left a lot out there. He's definitely struggled with some of his acquisitions. He's cut bait with some of them, which I do love. He doesn't just stick with them like Jerry Reese has in the past. You know, he drafted James Brewer. James Brewer sat on the Giants for like a million years and did absolutely nothing. So I do like that about Gettleman, but he definitely has a lot to work on. And I kind of, I could see the Giants moving on I would like the Giants to move on if there's someone that they are in love with. I think that's another thing. I don't think you just move on for move on's sake. But I think if there's someone out there that they really like, they have the apple of his eye, you know what I'm saying? Then you go that direction.
Yeah, you got to have, like, if they're planning on moving on from them, they should be figuring it out now and, you know, kind of have it lined up, whatever they're going to do. I have moved on to the team dump Gettleman, just because I think at some point you have to play the results. And it's like, as much as we like what Judge has been, it's like we've been 2-7 3 years in a row. We've been under him, we've been the worst team in the NFL. So I get it's not as simple as that, but I do think at some point you just have to play the results.
I think that's fair. I do.
But I have people have been making this point, and it's honestly a good one. It's like they decided to bring him back. Did they? Yes. Well, what have they done? What has happened since they decided to bring him back? Well, his free agency class was amazing. Blake Martinez, James Bradbury, amazing. Kyler Fackrell has been really good value.
Yes.
You know, you bring Golden back on for basically nothing and then get a draft pick out of him. And then in the draft, Thomas, if he ends up being good, you know, if you go off these past two games, like Thomas, that's a good draft pick. Peart, that's a good draft pick. So I've seen that point of view, and I don't totally disagree with it. Although I lean move on because, at some point it's just your record is who you are, and we got asked this the other day. If Jones has to light it up the rest of the year for him to stay, not just play good. He has to light it up and them to win some games.
I also wonder how much Daniel Jones is tied in to Dave Gettleman as well. One thing I will say, though, that it seems somewhat apparent is this is Joe Judge's team rather than just Dave Gettleman's team, which is something that I also like, and it might actually fix into this. If Joe Judge and him do have a great working relationship, something that you and I probably can't speak to as of right now, then I may tend to be like, okay, maybe you do end up keeping him unless there is somebody that Judge wants to bring in. Then we kind of make Judge the main focal point of this, because it seems like the Giants are really invested in this head coach. I love that personally because I really like Joe Judge. I mean, I listen to this guy talk, and there's just something about him that I just really respect. I'm not even really 100% sure if I can put my finger on it. It's just a confidence and just a really, he seems like he really, like when you watch the Judge Report, it seems like the way that he explains things it's so easy to digest and understand. And that's really good for these young kids to really grasp. And I really like what Joe Judge has to offer so far. And he's just a rookie head coach. He's just going to grow so much from this. But as for Dave Gettleman, you're right, man. It's a records business. But if they keep him, I'm not going to burn my Giants flags or anything like that.
Right. All right. So we'll finish off with this, the most debated topic for any team in sports. Daniel Jones. Now let's just say we have the second pick. So, we're not going to be at the first pick and get Trevor Lawrence. And you as same as me, we probably haven't both went and watched Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, although Zach Wilson's highlights do excite me. So I'll just give you kind of more of a like, what are your thoughts on Jones this year? Because it's obviously been a lot worse than last year. And then two, like, are you on the team of like, hey, like if we're there, we probably have to take a cube. If he plays himself into the top 5 pick, do we need to draft a new QB, or are you like, hey, we need to be patient and give him another year?
I think if the Giants had the number 1 overall pick, it's not a question. You go with Trevor Lawrence. But again, it would be a little bit disingenuous for me to weigh in on Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. But when I get there, I'm going to do my film work on them because Daniel Jones hasn't sold me yet. I'm not sold on him, but at the same time, he shows me glimpses that make me feel like he's a quarterback you can win with in the NFL. He's just a young quarterback. He's an inexperienced quarterback, and he needs to work on pre-snap, post-snap recognition. And there are plays where he does that well, but there are also a lot of plays. I know you watch the All-22 where he leaves plays out there on the field, and you're like, oh, man, I wish you saw that. Come on, Daniel, you're better than that. This guy's wide open. It was a blown coverage. Why didn't you see that safety roll? X, Y, Z. But with all that said, I still think he's a quarterback you can build around, a quarterback that you can win with. He doesn't necessarily have to be in the best situation, but you're going to maximize him if he's in a better situation. I'm not 100% sure if Justin Fields is past that. I don't know because I haven't watched him quite extensively yet.
Let's just say if you do really like Justin Fields or who if Mike Winchell comes out and he's a beast, if you like, it's going to
be an opportunity cost thing for me. Who else is around? Is there a dominant edge rusher that comes out? Is there going to be a shutdown corner that comes out? And what can I get for those picks if I do trade? Can I get an RG3 type haul like the Rams did? Can I get something like that if someone wants to trade up to get Justin Fields? If there's a very, very desperate team that wants to do that, then I can think about acquiring those picks and really building this roster up around Daniel Jones. I think that could be an option, but I also think these last 8 games are important to kind of analyze and break him down. So I want to reserve my judgment there a little bit, not to cop out of the question. But I do feel like right now it's definitely something that he's somebody you can build around, but I'm not sold on him quite yet as the franchise quarterback. Now, Dan posed a question on Big Blue Banter, and it was for 5 years from now, what's your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 that Daniel Jones is the quarterback, 10 being the highest? I said 5 because I think I split the middle. I think it's debatable. I think it's up in the air, and I think it's going to come down to how the Giants kind of finish this season as well. That may lead into this if Gettleman's retained. I think there are a lot of variables that need to be kind of thought about when it comes to Daniel Jones being on this roster. But with that question posed, what do you think you would say? 5 years, scale 1 to 10, 10 being most confident.
Oh, man. I think it really comes down to this offseason because I don't think we're going to be in a top 10. Like, I don't think we're going to be at the top of the year next year if he comes back. I think he's going to, like, there's no way he doesn't improve. Like, he's a smart kid. He works hard. He's not lazy. So he'll definitely get better if he's brought back. I would probably go 6.5. I think I'm a Jones defender. Well, people call me like just a Jones fanboy, and I'm definitely a fan of his, but they just kind of ignore when it's like, hey, he did this wrong. I will say the Tampa game was a low moment. I thought that was a low. I've never felt that bad about him. There's times where you miss, like you're going to miss open guys. You're going to take chances and you're going to make dumb mistakes. But those 2 interceptions against Tampa were just, I was like, I don't understand what you were thinking here.
Dude, it wasn't even the even if the interceptions didn't happen, I'd still be criticizing him like crazy on the podcast because he missed so many throws, man. He just didn't recognize certain throws and he missed other throws. And I think the one where Darius Slayton was streaking down the field, I'm not 100% sure, but he was trying to throw hot there. He thought the blitz was coming. He was trying to just get rid of the ball and not get killed. Didn't end up happening. Threw him off, and then he just made a terrible mistake, a horrendous mistake, and threw that interception. And there's no excuse for that. But yes, I'm upset, though, that game happened, Bobby, on prime time on Monday Night Football, where the entire NFL can watch that game and now just be like, Daniel Jones sucks. And I'm like, he's not great, but that was his worst game by far in his career. Well, the only one that might come close is Week 17 against the Eagles, where he missed a bunch of throws, but that was a windy game, kind of a poor weather game, and I hope that he can actually be better in the wind because that was a question mark of his coming out of Duke a little bit, I think, and Week 17 it definitely did not show well, and he plays in MetLife, which is a very windy place.
Yeah, I agree. And being late on the 2-point conversion, it's like, come on.
That was abysmal, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll just go through it on plays. working on something, but on plays where there's 15+ yard routes. So it doesn't mean he's throwing deep. It could be like the Steelers touchdown, the one to Slayton. That's not on there. There was only one route. I mean, by game, 80%, 77%, 55%, 67%, 67%, 63, 78, and then 44 in the Tampa. He's higher in that every game than in the short, quick concepts.
I wonder if that's because of coverage, though, at the same time. It's because they're giving him a certain coverage and it allows him to feel confident enough to throw the football, because in Jason Garrett's offense, it seems like it's much more closer to the line of scrimmage, which generally is true around the NFL. It's a lot of quick game in the NFL because edge rushers are getting really good and they're getting back there to kill quarterbacks. So I'm wondering, I would like to see what the coverages were on a lot of those deep balls. Because I know a lot of them, I'm sure a lot of them at least, were man coverage, single high, looks off the safety right at the snap, and then throws it one-on-one to like Darius Slayton or Golden Tate.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like all deep. Like sometimes it's a check down, and because it's a deep concept, that he throws a check down and it goes 15 yards instead of 1 yard, and like there's
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not saying like just throwing the ball deep. I get that where it's like, well, because the stat was thrown around today, like he's the second best quarterback in deep balls. It's like, yeah, but he's like thrown like the least in the NFL. His deep balls have been cut in half. So I agree with you on that. I was just saying more on concepts. There was something I wanted to ask you before we went. It had something to do with Jones. Damn it, now I'm forgetting.
Got hit in the head too many times, Bobby.
I know. Well, first, thank you, B-Mac, for the donation. I appreciate it. It says, great show, guys. Oh, man, we were talking about Tampa. Oh, that really bothers me now. That pisses me off that I forgot it. I'm going to give myself 10 seconds on the clock to think of it. I'll say this is Coney. He's actually from the future. He says y'all are about to enjoy this blowout on Sunday. So that's nice. He's our number one commenter. He's claims to be from the future. So
he's a future person.
Yeah, he says he's from the future, and he tells us what's going to happen. Sometimes he's off, but that happens to everybody.
No, of course.
Damn it, I'm freaking. Let me just go through players. Shepard, Tate, Slayton. Wasn't about any of them. I don't know. All right, well, that's Evan Ingram. No, it wasn't about. Oh, here's what it was. Here's what it was. I have this take that I'm like working out in my head, and I actually messaged your co-host Dan about this. Would you? I think it's something that every NFL team should do, not just the Giants. Should run four verts or some sort of four verts 5 times every game. 5 times every game. You could tell me, oh, well, look at the sack. I'll take sacks if that means 1 or 2 of those are hooking up every time. Do you think that's like some like out and be as honest as you want to be? Is that something like easy to say from the outside looking in? But what do you think of that? Of like just 4 verts 5 times every game. I think it
depends on the coverage, really. If they're showing a lot of too high coverage with zone underneath, then yes, I would like that. 4 verts, 6-man protection, and go from there. But I wouldn't make it a staple and a must if they're running a certain coverage that may take away from that, if that makes sense.
See, I'm like, no matter what. Like, if it's cover 3, I mean, that one to Mack was cover 3. If it's cover 4, it keeps them honest in that cover 4. Now we're running the ball a little easier, where the short game is there a little easier. It's just a new theory I thought of today in my head.
And maybe Jason Garrett's listening to this right now.
I know. I'm rolling with it. And I've been watching the QB school, too, and he's been getting in my head a little bit.
Oh, JT Sullivan?
Yeah, I love him.
He's great. Yeah, he's awesome. But maybe the guy from the future is actually Jason Garrett, and he's listening to you right now, and we're going to see a lot of 4 verts against the Eagles.
I like it. All right, that's a show. Appreciate you guys. I'm finishing this like a podcast, and it's a Q&A. So appreciate you guys. Make sure to subscribe. And then go follow Nick Falato on Twitter. It's just at Nick Falato. And then subscribe to their podcast, Big Blue Banter. Listen to it after you listen to the Talking Giants podcast. Thanks, Nick.
Take care, guys.